Whether you don't eat dairy or are just looking to cut back, there's no reason you have to give up your favorite comfort foods. I'm Noam Chomsky, and today I'll be sharing my top 10 substitutions you can use to make your favorite dairy-rich dishes dairy-free.
You are getting very hungry. Number 1.
Alright, the first item on our list today is Moco's Mozzarella. It comes in both liquid and block forms, and I find the liquid to be the more versatile of the two. The way it works is that it becomes thicker as it's heated. The block, on the other hand, starts as a solid and gets liquid when you heat it. So you can see how, depending on your application, one or the other might be better for your use case. The liquid mozzarella I obviously like to use on top of pizza, but I found that it actually works better for a lot of off-label uses. One of my favorites is to use it like a cheese sauce. So putting it on a burrito or tacos or nachos in place of nacho cheese. It works really well with that. You can mix it with salsa verde, jalapenos, or chopped chilies to kind of do a queso. In that situation, I would recommend not heating it up, because if you do heat it up, it's just going to turn into a solid block. You may be able to heat it slightly, just warm it up a little bit without triggering the thickeners in it. But I typically just take it right out of the fridge and pour it onto whatever hot food I'm going to eat. And it does a pretty good job of adding a cheesy richness to my food without having to cook it. Now, the Moco's block mozzarella, on the other hand, behaves quite differently. Obviously, it comes as a block and it melts as you heat it. Like a lot of other dairy-free cheeses, it doesn't melt very well. So while it does melt, don't expect it to have the kind of stretchiness and pull and creamy texture of a traditional cheese. I like to use it in the type of ways you use cold mozzarella. So in a caprese salad, it's very good. It could be a good replacement for string cheese. And in a pinch, it's not bad if you shred it and put it on cheese toast. Whereas most dairy-free cheeses get their flavor from artificial flavorings or natural flavorings, but they're flavorings that are just added to the product. These are made from cultured cashew milk, mixed with a few other ingredients, and then they're cultured sort of like a yogurt to give them some of those savory umami notes without having to add flavorings to it. While they're both good products, the liquid one is the one I keep in my refrigerator. It's so versatile, whether I'm making a casserole, tacos, pizza, you name it, this is good on it. If you like this type of content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you'll be notified every time I post a new video on gluten and dairy-free food.
Number 2.
Number 2 on my list is Follow Your Heart American dairy-free cheese. I put this on the list because sometimes you just want a crappy piece of American cheese. And of all the ones I've tried, this one comes the closest to tasting like real American cheese. I love to use this on cheeseburgers. While it doesn't get the correct mouthfeel, because like most dairy-free cheeses, it melts a little weird, it tastes very similar to a real American cheese in the context of a burger. Tasting this on its own, not so impressive. It's not bad, but it's not great. But put it on a burger, and it's fantastic. The other thing I really use this for is burritos. It's creamy, it's salty, and it's cheesy, and when it's in the context of all the other ingredients, it really does taste like American cheese, and that's the reason this is number 2 on my list.
Number 3.
I love bagels, and bagels are not the same without cream cheese, and that's why my number 3 pick is Trader Joe's dairy-free cream cheese. I've tried a lot of brands, and this is by far the most authentic tasting. It's not the one with the most accurate texture. It's a little bit, for lack of a better term, gelatinous. It cuts more like a gel than a oil-based cheese. That said, flavor-wise, it's unmatched in terms of tasting like real cream cheese. My favorite way to use it is to mix it with other ingredients to make a flavored cream cheese. I think in that situation, it really shines. For me, that's often fresh raw jalapenos because I love jalapeno cream cheese. But you could do it with garlic, you could do it with onion, you could do it with sweet stuff like strawberries, blueberries. It tastes great in all those different ways. This is another one that's pretty versatile in that I occasionally use it in other situations. I've added it to mac and cheese just to kind of round out the flavor. That's one thing I've noticed with a lot of dairy-free cheeses is that if you use them in conjunction with each other, you'll get a more rounded dairy-like flavor. And so this is one you can use in a lot of different situations to round out your flavor.
Number 4.
Number 4 on my list is the dairy-free version of Boursin garlic and herb cheese. I don't have this one on hand. I wasn't able to find it, but I'm going to put a little picture of it here for you. What I like about this one is that it tastes remarkably similar to the dairy version of Boursin. Like the cream cheese, the texture's a little off. It's got some of that same gel kind of texture, and I wouldn't be surprised if this and the Trader Joe's cream cheese were made by the same manufacturer. But it's super delicious. It works great on a charcuterie board. Sometimes I use it like cream cheese on a bagel. I've also put it on pizza as a topping. It works in a lot of different ways. It doesn't have a lot of weird flavor notes like some dairy-free cheeses. All around, it's just a very good substitution for a flavored soft cheese.
Number 5.
All right, number 5 on my list is Silk Soy Creamer. I'm a creamer in my coffee kind of gal, and I found that the Silk is the best in terms of flavor and creaminess. A lot of plant milks are missing the body and richness that you get from a dairy-based half and half, but the Silk creamer has a decent amount of fat, which helps it give you that really creamy mouthfeel. I also like that soy milks are the most sustainable and have the best nutritional profile of all the plant-based milks. I don't really use this product in many other ways than coffee because I find that soy milk does impart sort of a odd flavor to a lot of dishes like mac and cheese, for example. But I do sometimes throw it in a smoothie because it's pretty good.
Number 6.
Number 6 on my list is Follow Your Heart Parmesan cheese. This one comes in both the powdered version and the shredded version, although I prefer the powdered version. I don't really have a lot to say about this one other than that it tastes the most like Parmesan cheese of any Parmesan cheese I've tried. I use it on pizza, pasta, salads, anything you use Parmesan cheese for, you can use this, and it does a great job of replicating that flavor. Can't go wrong with this one.
Number 7.
There's a lot of great plant-based butters, but anytime I want butter to be the star of the show, I reach for Miyoko's plant-based butter, which is why it is number 7 on our list. Like Miyoko's mozzarella, this one is made from cultured cashew milk, which is then mixed with a couple different oils and salt to create the butter. It's got a tangy taste that you get from real butter that I find a lot of plant-based butters don't quite replicate. I also like the way this melts in that you see a bit of the solid in with the liquid, which gives it a more realistic butter appearance. The first ingredient on the back is coconut oil. So like real butter, you probably want to use it sparingly because of the high saturated fat content. But if you're making something where butter needs to be the star of the show, I think Miyoko's is a great product for achieving that.
Number 8.
Number 8 on my list is Baby Bell dairy-free cheese. I'll be honest, I don't eat this product a lot. I like it, I think it's delicious, but it has almost no nutritional value. So really, this is just something you're gonna eat if you want something fun to snack on that reminds you of your favorite dairy-full foods. If you've ever had the dairy version of Baby Bell cheese, this tastes quite similar. Granted, I haven't had them side by side, but from my memory of Baby Bell cheese, this is very similar. This is the original flavor. It also, I believe, comes in a cheddar flavor, but I have not seen that in a store near me yet. This is another one I've occasionally used in concert with another cheese to round out the flavor. It's not bad melted, and I've occasionally made cheese toast with it. And so while it's not something I eat frequently, the fact that if you want something like a Baby Bell cheese, there really is no better option on the market. And I do occasionally get that craving. And for that reason, I like to have this around.
Number 9.
Number 9 on my list is Tofutti sour cream. And this is an interesting one. I can't say this is a very good tasting product when you just eat it on its own. It pretty much tastes like cardboard. Sour, salty cardboard. That said, the magic happens when you use it in dishes in place of other forms of dairy. So I typically use this when I want to add dairy to a recipe without adding a cheesy flavor. I'll usually cut it to the desired thickness. So if a recipe calls for sour cream, I'll use it as is. But if a recipe calls for buttermilk or half and half, you can adjust the amount of water you mix it with to reach the desired consistency. And I use this all the time. I've made beef stroganoff where I used it in place of the sour cream. I've made macaroni and cheese where I use this in place of the milk. I add it to pasta sauce to make like a vodka sauce. I've used it as a milk replacement in baking. I've used it in mashed potatoes. I've used it in casseroles, burritos, tacos, enchiladas. Just about anything you would use dairy for, I use this. I've tried other dairy-free sour creams, and they typically have a base of coconut or some other funky flavor, and when I'm eating sour cream or buttermilk, I don't really want it to have a coconut flavor. It's a big turnoff for me. It's a great neutral replacement for the dairy you'd use in a lot of different foods and recipes.
Number 10.
So the last item on my list is a bit of a departure from the other ones. This isn't something you would eat on its own. It's not even really considered a food, I would say, and that is lactic acid powder. Lactic acid powder is great to punch up those kind of sour notes you get from dairy products like cheese or sour cream. So a lot of times when I'm making a casserole or macaroni and cheese or pasta sauce, I'll add a little bit of lactic acid powder just to give it a little bit more of a true dairy flavor that a lot of the non-dairy products are missing. Another interesting use for this is making gluten-free bread. Naturally leavened sourdough bread ends up with a mix of acetic and lactic acid from the fermentation process. I'm able to replicate that flavor profile by adding some vinegar, which is acetic acid, and some lactic acid to my dough recipe. I'm able to get that same flavor profile in my bread without having to deal with the tedium of nursing a starter. No disrespect if you do use a starter culture, because I think it probably tastes a little better than what I'm making. But as far as convenience, it's hard to beat the lactic acid powder and some vinegar. I look forward to hearing what some of your favorite substitutions are. Be sure to shout them out in the comments.